Please could we be given warning at the beginning of a programme if there's going to be anything about the Beatles, as all Beatle fans can make sure to listen, and have a chance to ring up other fans to make sure they are also listening.
Hi everybody, this is John here.
This is Paul,
George,
and Ringo.
And we're very happy to be on your program once again.
Hey everyone, this is Steve Marinucci, your Beatles news guy, and this time out on our Beatles News Briefs podcast, I think we have something pretty exciting. A couple of weeks before we started working on this, reports came out that a tape of the Beatles tracks from the Decca auditions had surfaced in Canada. Some of the reports seem to indicate that the tape was actually rare, and that also that the tracks might be different. Well, we've heard reports of this kind about Beatle tapes in the past, so initially it didn't bother us and it didn't seem to mean much. But after reports made it to the Beatles channel on Sirius XM, we decided to do a little digging and see what we could find out. We think most of you are familiar with these tapes. They've been around the collector circles long enough. It's likely that you know the Decca audition tapes or tracks from it have also been auctioned before. Notably, there is the tape auctioned in 2019, which Mark Lewison described as having differences in September in the Rain and Three Cool Cats. There were also the acetates of Hello Little Girl Until There Was You that were sold in 2016. So we contacted the men that had this new tape. Rob Frith is the owner of Neptune Records in Vancouver and the producer of a music collection called The History of Vancouver Rock, which is now up to Volume 5. Doug Schober is host of a music video blog called Noise from the Cranium, and Larry Hennessy is a music archivist, transfer and restoration engineer at reel2reel2digital.com. So what we are doing here is discussing with them what they have and where it came from what they know. They read me the track listing. It's the one that is on many of the bootlegs. Here's the track listing. It's Money, Chic of Araby, Memphis, Tennessee, Three Cool Cats, Sure to Fall, September in the Rain, Take Good Care of My Baby, Till There Was You, Crying, Waiting, Hoping, To Know Her Is to Love Her, Bésame Mucho, Searching, Like Dreamers Do, Hello Little Girl, and Love of the Love in that order. They were together to hear the entire tape for the first time. The day after our interview, Larry Hennessy sent us their impressions of the listening session, and we'll give those to you after you hear the interview. We also contacted 3 respected Beatles authors. Piers Hemmingson, the author of 2 volumes of The Beatles in Canada, Bruce Spicer, author of numerous discographies and histories of the Beatles labels and albums, with the one most recent being The Beatles, A Hard Day's Night and More, and Mark Lewison, author of The Beatles All These Years, Tune In Volume 1, for their opinions on the situation. They gave us their thoughts, which we will give you after the interview. Finally, we heard one of the songs, Money, in its entirety. We'll discuss our impressions after the interview. Here's our interview with Larry Hennessy, Rob Frith, and Doug Schober. Hello, everyone. This is Steve Marinucci, and I'm talking to the 3 gentlemen involved with the finding of the Decca tape in Canada. On the line with me is Rob Frith, owner of Neptune Records, Doug Schober, who heads the Noise from the Cranium podcast, and Larry Hennessy, who works at reel2reel.com and does digital transfers. And you guys are actually transferring the tape tonight.
This will be the first time that we've actually played the whole tape. We've only heard snippets of the tape 3 times. So
Okay.
this will be the first time that we've played the whole tape.
And this is Rob. The first time we were late at night and we were tired and we didn't know what it was. And then all of a sudden, we discovered this thing, and Doug was here with us because we were initially here to transfer other tapes for a project I'm doing on the history of Vancouver rock, 60s bands, and I had some tapes. So that's why we were here. The tape was just something that was hanging around my store for like 10 years or so. Something that I thought was just a reel-to-reel of Beatle bootlegs because there was no reason for that tape to be in Canada or Vancouver. Right. So I just assumed it was just some, bootleg. So just brought that along, and then the three of us got that moment when we put it on and could not believe what we were hearing.
We're still in shock.
So you guys hadn't heard it before that?
No.
Okay.
Never been played.
And we've been working on, this is Doug, we'd been working on all the other stuff for about 4.5 hours. So it was getting late in the evening. It was 11:30 at night. And Rob kind of said, well, got this one more reel here, this Beatles reel. What do you think? And, I don't even remember really who said yes or no or.
Well, yeah, he said, I've got this tape that says Beatles demo. And we kind of all looked at each other. We went, sure. But when we put it on, I mean, right away our jaws dropped, and within a few songs, I think we figured out exactly what we had.
I got on Google right away, and within 2 songs, it's like, this is looking like the Decca recordings from 1962. And then each song would come up, and I go, yep, that's the Sheik of Araby. Yep, that's this one. That's that one. And we were like, and then Larry starts looking at the tape. And you tell them the story of the tape.
So as soon as Rob passed me the tape, and I've been working with reel-to-reel tape since I was 8.
Right.
Not professionally while I was 8.
He's 14 now.
That's right. So yeah, all my life. And so I know what a master reel-to-reel tape looks like, as opposed to a bootleg tape.
Right.
We'll get a little technical by saying that for master or professional prepared tapes, there is leader tape, a spacing silent piece of tape that is put between the tracks. There's leader tape to start, and then after each track, there's leader tape in the silent space, which can also decide the duration of the pause in between. So it's and when you look at a reel that's been prepared that way, you can see the white bands of leader. And so when I saw that, that's the first thing I noticed. The second thing I noticed was this is a 1960s metal reel, because the design of them and the manufacture of them changed over the years. And so with those two indications, I kind of felt, hold on, this is not just a bootleg, because if it was a bootleg, it would just be somebody would have played the tape quickly onto another tape, and got the heck out of there.
There'd be no reason for them to put the leader.
There would no reason to put leader in there. So, so when we started to play it, we realized that the quality of the recording, and we've just to set up the transfer that we're going to do later this evening, we just played a few snippets, through the studio speakers, and the fidelity is absolutely astounding.
You guys have probably heard some of the bootleg versions.
Yes, we have.
And and you're saying the quality on this is better than those?
Oh, like a whole, it's like no comparison.
Really?
Yeah, and also the word is, I mean, there are so many Beatles experts, and I'm sure, listening to this, to this podcast alone, there are so many people that are such experts in Beatles lore and production and et cetera. And, that's fantastic. It's great to have everybody chiming in. So somebody said that, you've got to check the tape, because if money doesn't start properly, then, because most bootlegs apparently have the beginning of money clipped. Well, this one has money starting perfectly. So also the original session was recorded to stereo, 2-track stereo. So we have just checked this evening for the first time to see if it is stereo. It isn't. It's full track mono.
Okay.
So on the whole tape is just a mono thing. So this would be, in my estimation, my humble estimation, is it isn't. It is a copy of the original mixed down master tape, the mono master tape. I think it is a copy directly one-on-one from that, and we have kind of history that says that yes, it is.
Okay, because in researching and doing the research, there was a version. There have been versions auctioned before, but there
Yes.
was a version auctioned in 2019 that Mark Lewison said that on that tape, which they apparently believe was the original. He said the ending of Three Cool Cats had a bass note longer than any other version, and
Okay, we'll have to check that one.
he also said that September in the Rain was 4 seconds longer on this particular tape because it included vocals not included in other versions.
Hold on, let me make a note of that so that we can double check later.
What's the song order?
Let's see, where are we?
It starts with The Money,
Okay.
then Chic of Araby, then Memphis, Three Cool Cats, Sure to Fall in Love with You, September in the Rain, Take Good Care of My Baby, Till There Was You, Crying, Waiting, Hoping, To Know Her Is to Love Her, Besame Mucho, Searchin', Like Dreamers Do, Hello Little Girl, and Love of the Loved.
Right. As far as Larry, your comment about it being in stereo, I believe I'm pretty certain that it was done in mono. I mean, people have put out stereo versions that they have quick mixed, since.
Yeah,
And
stereo mono.
because
Yeah.
right. I mean, you can do just about anything with anything now,
Yeah.
given the technology. But I'm
Absolutely.
pretty certain that this is mono. It's not stereo.
If
So,
that's the case,
mhm.
then what we could be hearing here is right off that master, because I tell you, the fidelity on this
Yeah.
is incredible.
It is
Everything
spooky.
sounds so crystal clear and so deep. And
Yeah.
Have you done any direct comparisons? Have you done side by
No, you
side?
know what? It has been so this happened literally not this Tuesday gone by, but the Tuesday before.
Uh-huh.
And the very next day, when Rob posted a little snippet of the transfer, I mean, we were just stunned, and it was late at night, and we'd been working all day, and then came here and worked all evening. And so
Right.
the next day, Rob put a little snippet on a social media, and it exploded. And so when I saw that Rob had put a little snippet on, I went, well, I'll put a little snippet on, and it exploded as well. And so since then, it has been basically nonstop dealing with media interviews,
Right.
friends and family who are all like, oh my god,
and then it's like,
so
well, I recorded a different song, so I'll put mine out there too.
yeah.
Yeah.
So
Where did you put the social media clips so that people can look for them?
well, they're just on our our personal Facebook thing, but
Oh,
eventually
okay.
we are actually shooting a number of stories this evening about the duplication, etc. And so we
Hmm.
can send you the links when they're produced in the next
Okay.
while, and you can share it with your listeners.
But
Okay.
the original clip is on my Instagram and my Facebook. My Instagram is under
Oh yeah.
Frith Rob, and it's
Okay.
that's the one that sort of really blew up. And then
How many views do you have now?
it's like
Yeah.
33,000 views or something like that. And
Yeah.
Yeah, no wonder. It's a pretty special thing.
and here's the other thing
Hmm.
is I'm not trying to sell this tape. I'm not doing this for money. I'm not like I've said in the media that if Paul McCartney wants this tape, I will give it to him for free. So like
As
it's not
long
like
as
I'm
you put it in his hands.
and as long as he takes me for dinner. But that's and he has to pay.
And I'll
But
drive you guys over.
but seriously, I'm not someone that's trying to make a bunch of money from this. So
Hmm.
I have nothing to gain by sharing this. I just want I'm a big Beatle fan, as all
Yeah,
of us
we all
are here,
Yeah.
and that we just kind of want it to get out there that people can hear it, and if Paul can get it, that would is one of the guys that played in the band in 1962. I think they deserve to have
Yeah,
it.
he should have it.
Well,
And I think that's
I should tell you that in the course of researching, I did contact, and I think I told Rob this already. I did contact two noted Beatle researchers, and both of them were very skeptical.
We have a little bit of a story with a gentleman that actually got the tape and brought it to Vancouver.
Right, and actually, I tried to contact him and did not get a response. I didn't contact him till this afternoon,
Right.
so there wasn't really enough time. But he said he got it from an engineer in England, but he hasn't identified the person that gave him the tape. Go
I
ahead.
think he's
That's
probably
right.
protecting that person.
What I think it is
Mhm.
is that according to the fellow that wrote the newspaper article in the Vancouver Sun,
Mhm.
John Mackey, his name is, he understands from the conversation that it's probably someone like Jack Hirschhorn uh, lived in L.A. and came to Vancouver.
I should say that he's the guy we're talking about here.
Yeah,
Yes, that's right.
Sean.
yeah, Jack
Okay.
Hirschhorn. So he during the Vietnam War, a lot of Americans came to Vancouver
Mhm.
to get out of the draft.
Right.
He was one of them, and he was already involved in music in L.A. I think he got the band the Motleys signed to Valiant Records.
Okay.
Pretty sure that's the band, and so he already had he knew people. Um, the thoughts that John Mackey had, and when we talked about it, was that in LA when he went to England to try to promote some of the acts on his record label,
Right.
which was New Syndrome Records, um, and I think to promote Tom Northcott's songwriting there, that they went to Decca, and I'm thinking that he possibly knew the guy as a producer from California who was there. I think it was a producer that he knew there, and we're thinking that he got the tape from him.
He
Now
wasn't from the guy
the
wasn't from
guy's still alive.
the guy wasn't from England?
Apparently not.
Because the way I read the stories, the quotes that he said that the way I read it was the guy was from England, but you're saying
Yeah,
that's not the
the guy
case.
lived in England, but
Oh,
I think
okay.
he was from the United States. Yeah,
Okay.
he wasn't just there then. He was
Okay.
there working as a producer and it produced
Okay.
like big name acts, but I think he didn't want to out him because he's still alive and didn't want him
Right.
to get in trouble.
And
That's
so,
what I think.
And so Jack says that just this gentleman, whoever he was at Decca, gave him this transfer
Mhm.
with the intention of producing bootlegs. And Jack took the tape, and this is we've heard Jack in interviews, 4 times saying this, that he took the tapes to Vancouver to his Canbase studio, which became Mushroom Studios, and
Mhm.
they were in the tape vault. And his conscience told him that he should not release these bootlegs because he had no right to them. It was the Beatles' music. It was owned by Decca. He should not do it, and that's why the tape went into his tape vault since that time.
So what do you know? There's a conscientious guy in the record industry.
Right.
Thank you for bringing all that up because that's kind of the backstory on this whole thing of where it came from initially.
Yeah. So this is a incredibly high fidelity one-to-one transfer. The masters, quote unquote, that were bought at auction are all on Ampex tape. This is not. This is on 1960s. I can't give the tape brand, and also the box that is in has nothing to do with the tape. It's just in that box.
Mhm.
But the tape, because I've transferred so many tapes from the many decades. This is definitely 1960s tape, and the reel itself that it's on is definitely early 1960s.
Hmm. And I also I should say to everyone listening, unfortunately, we can't play any of it. I wish I could ask you to play a snippet. We can't because
I could go in the next room and kind of put it on.
no, because if it sneaks out on
Yeah.
YouTube,
Oh, absolutely. And you know what?
YouTube.
We're incredibly protective of it. We realize that the rights issues and et cetera, et cetera. Although we do have an idea for those people in Vancouver.
Yes,
What's the idea?
we're thinking of having a listening party.
Hmm.
Um, with a charge, but all the money will be donated to a charity.
Ah,
And
okay.
so we will actually set up, a high quality Studer tape machine. We'll have the original tape, and we'll let people hear it, and we'll all enjoy it together. So that is one way that we can actually let people hear it.
Okay.
That's our thought, anyways, until legal moves in once they hear this podcast.
Well, the thing is too with us, like whether people believe it's original or not, we know it is,
Uh-huh.
and that's all we care about. So if no one else wants to believe it, that's up to them.
And I mean, at the time, we thought it was too good to be true as well. We were looking at each other and we're going, how is this happening? How did this get here? And it was a mystery that night, and it only became over the next few days on social media, on Larry's post, where a fellow gave us a hint, and that was Tom Lavin from the Powder Blues Band, a Vancouver blues band from the 70s and 80s, and he gave us the link back to Can Base Studios, which the tape box is from Can Base Studios,
and I duplicated a lot of tapes from Can West, so it's their typical box.
Because
label.
when he remembered working in the early 70s in Can Base, and he said, "Oh yeah, I found the tape on the shelves. I played it for my friends. We listened to it, so I know it was there. I know it was at Can Base." So that was interesting, because that legitimizes, because that's where Rob thinks he got it from. And it legitimizes it back to there, which takes it back to Jack Hirshhorn and so on.
Takes it back to Decca.
Right. Just to ask again, the tape that you have is much better than any of the bootlegs that you've heard. Is that
when I get some time, if that happens, I will, I'll bring up some demos and we'll have a listen. But as a duplicating engineer and a audio restorer, this fidelity is fantastic. Now the balance of the recording is not that great, because as we've read, the whole engineering team there was hungover because they've been celebrating New Year. It was January 2nd. And rock music was new, so sometimes the balance is not that great. You can't hear Pete Best very well, although in a couple of songs you can. But the fidelity, the frequency spread of the high frequencies and down into the very mellow lower frequencies for the bass are, they're outstanding. It's notably outstanding.
I listened to the Beatles, the Beatles, like that was the reissue, the double CD. I listened to that this morning, and it's got 5 songs from that
anthology, right? Anthology
and
1.
This sounds like way better than that.
Yeah,
in the room we're listening to it, obviously off tape rather than a CD, so it has a warmer.
That doesn't matter. That doesn't matter. It's we'll have to that'll have to be our next experiment. Once we haven't even transferred it yet. We're about to, after we talk to you, we're about to go in and actually transfer and play the whole tape. But
what are you going to transfer it to?
Now here comes the advice. We are going to play the tape on a Studer A810, a high quality, well maintained reel-to-reel machine. The tape itself is at 15 inches per second. I will play it into 2 different. So we'll record 2 machines at the same time.
Right.
So we'll record CD quality. So that will be 44.1 sampling rate, and then 24-bit. Even though CD quality is 16-bit. As I understand, bit rate can be changed a lot easier than sample rate. I will also have Pro Tools rig running that will sample and at the highest bit rate and the highest sample rate, which is, in the future, that's how we'll listen to music, man. And so, you got to do that. Although it's, it's kind of difficult to deal with that sample rate because you've got to down convert it and et cetera, which brings its own problems in. But for the sake of history and for the sake of that's what archivists should do, that's my plan. What do you suggest, Steve?
What do I suggest? I don't confess to be a recording engineer. I attended the listening party for the White Album box set at Capitol Records, and I was floored by the quality of what they had going through their speakers there. I mean, that was just that was a mind blower. And I mean, I don't know what you have, but I can imagine the clarity of, what you're going to hear, because you're going to be doing it on, on professional equipment. Whereas instead of listening to it on a, cheap headphones or something, it's
Yeah,
gonna.
exactly. No, it'll be a very high quality transfer. And I wish that you and I wish that everybody listening right now could be in the room with us to hear this. And I think everybody would be grinning and shaking your heads as to, oh, it sounds so amazing.
Well, all I can say is, I wish you best of luck. Are you going to try and further get some clarity on exactly the origin? Are you going to try and do any more investigation as far as that goes?
Well, I know the origin. We know that. We know for a fact where it came from. It came
Mhm.
from Decca, and we know that it came from Jack Hirshhorn.
Mhm.
So,
And he's still alive and he's still talking about it. So, and none of us, including Jack, I mean, he's as amused at this of anybody. Like we're not looking to. It isn't something that we didn't contact you to get interviewed. We've
No,
contacted nobody.
no,
This is it's all just a huge wave that we're just up on a. We're up on a surfboard, just surfing along it. We're not looking to profit from it.
Well, gentlemen, thank you for taking the time. This was kind of set up on short notice, and I appreciate you're doing this and all the fun we had getting this thing started tonight. Thanks to Zoom, but we did it, and this has been very interesting. And I wish you the best of luck with that tape, and hopefully we'll all get to hear it somehow.
Indeed, come on up. Get yourself a flight up here.
I wish I could. Larry, Rob, and Doug, again, thank you for
thanks, Steve.
taking the
Thank you,
time,
Steve. You're fantastic.
and I wish you the best of luck with this.
Thanks so
And
much.
you too. Cheers.
Okay, let me ding ding ding. Where's the button to stop this?
Let me entertain you.
Yeah, I know. Oh, here we go. Here's what Larry Hennessy sent us the day after we did this interview. He said, quote, "Last night after we spoke, we played and transferred the tape in its entirety for the first time. As we discussed, the quality is outstanding. There are two interesting technical things we found while playing the tape in its entirety. There is a longer red leader placed between the standards and covers and the three Beatles originals that are at the end of the tape. Why is a mystery. The rest are separated by typical white leader." This is again Larry Hennessy. "The most interesting find, I think, is the song September in the Rain." He said the end of the song has been edited with about 6 edits. The first 3 not very musical, what I would call bad edits and not in rhythm. And then there are 2 edits to bring the end of the song instrumentally, and the final as the last downbeat of the song with typical Beatles chatter for a few seconds. We compared a few online versions of the song from the Decca sessions, and those edits are present. So, he said, more research will have to be done. If the edits are physically present on this tape and most versions have the same bad edits, then did this tape supply the versions that exist? If this tape was a copy, then we would hear the edits, but they would not be physically present on the tape. We can't compare the anthology version with this, as September in the Rain was not included. The Beatles' hive mind, he's talking about the fans. The Beatles' hive mind can help by comparing versions they have of September and see if the last 30 seconds of the song have those non-musical bad edits. And you are welcome. This is Steve saying you are welcome to do that. Back to Larry. If they do, then the versions came from this tape. If they don't, then it's from different tape. Why it was edited may have been to fix a bad ending and cobbled together from a pickup ending second take. I personally would not choose that engineer to perform edits. They may be better suited to cleaning up the tape path on the machines. As I understand it, they did not even have splicing blocks back then to help with tape alignment, and did them freestyle with the scissors, so some slack is offered in all seriousness. Will be interesting to hear what your audience can find with their versions of September in the Rain. It's a mystery we can all work on. And as you heard in the talk and here, they think that this might be a low generation copy of the original, or could be, but in any event. So that's where we are with the tape. Here are the statements we received from Bruce Spicer, Mark Lewison, and Piers Hemmingson. We requested the statements from them before we had heard the tape, before we had talked to them, before we had talked to Larry, Rob, and Doug. And so this was just we asked for the statement on the general situation here. And here's what they said. Bruce Spicer said, having not examined the tape box or the tape or heard the tape itself, it's impossible to make any definitive comment on exactly what it is. At best, it's the actual master tape, which seems unlikely. At the worst, someone recorded the Decca songs from a bootleg onto an old tape reel. It probably falls somewhere in between and maybe a copy made from the master tape transferred in the early 60s. This does not appear to be anything to get excited about unless the tape contains something that has not been released before on legitimate or gray market releases, and to this point it does not. Mark Lewison pretty much concurred with that. He said, I don't see there's any cause to be excited about the tape unless it's proven to be the original spool from 1962, or if it contains sounds not present on the recording that circulated globally for almost 50 years, since circa 1977. Even if it's a hot copy of the original tape, it won't be the only one we've had through the years. And Piers Hemmingson said, Steve, almost certainly it is a copy duplicate of the master tape that was sent to a recording pressing company in Vancouver, British Columbia, and that refers to the previous owner of the tape. So, there we go. As I mentioned earlier, I heard one of the tracks after we had stopped recording because unfortunately I can't put it out over the air, and I heard the song Money. We heard the song over our usual headphones. One thing we noticed was the clarity of John's vocal. Initially, and we mentioned this to Larry, Rob, and Doug at the time, we thought that was a difference. But in listening to the song in other Decca versions, the same clarity seemed to be there too. So there really wasn't a difference. Finally, our conclusion is we're hesitant to say this is anything like a landmark discovery. I think Lewison and Spicer pretty well tagged it as possibly a copy of the original, an early copy of the original tape, though the questions about the leaders and the edits, well, the leaders actually, kind of open a question as to what really is going on here. But really, it really doesn't look like a landmark discovery. I think that's probably the way to put it. And as Lewis and Bruce Spicer said, if this had any differences on it, it would be huge. But from what we can tell so far, it does not. So that's it for this time around. If you aren't subscribed to us, we would really appreciate if you subscribe, and also if you do subscribe, or if you have listened to this show or some other shows and would like to review us, we would appreciate that too. Google loves reviews, especially good ones. They take very kindly to that stuff. So, in any event, thanks for listening. We enjoyed this a lot. We hope you did too. We have felt it very informative. You can comment on our shows by writing BeatlesNewsBriefs@gmail.com. This is Steve Marinucci saying,
Be seeing you.
Keep that one. Mark it fab.